So thanks for coming, guys. I appreciate you being here today. 4 forces of disengagement. You guys kind of know what to expect, but you don't really know what to expect because we kind of left some mystery out there for the sake of you being able to come here and learn and understand what we understand through the world of Clear Leader Group and PI, Predictive Index, and let you know what we've discovered and what we've learned as we work with companies about these 4 forces of disengagement. Before we get started into how we're going to handle these things, how we're going to deal with each of these things, how we're going to make sure we address each of these things, we got to know when we're talking about the 4 forces of disengagement, we want to know what the word engagement means, and we need to be in agreement on what the word engagement means. So when we're sitting down, me, Melissa, and Kevin, and we're talking about the word engagement, we really feel like it's important to recognize the definition as emotional commitment to the company and its goals. If you have anybody, okay, that is like that in your life, you know who that is. You know who those people are. The emotionally connected people make themselves known by the way they carry themselves, by the way they do their work, by the way they act as a friend, by the way they engage you, by the way they engage others. You can tell. And you're thinking of someone right now. And if you're not thinking of someone, they may just not be front of mind. Eventually they will come to mind. But that emotional commitment, okay, is present, is obvious, okay? That's engaged people. That's who we want in our companies. That's who we want in our lives. But again, let's just all agree this is our definition of engagement for the purposes of this presentation. Now, that being said, I want to talk to you about what we call the discretionary effort graph. This is when you look at performance over time, okay? And you have this line at the bottom that says minimum requirements right here. This is so important, okay, to recognize that that is the minimum requirements for the job. This is what you have to do to not get fired, okay? And when you have to do something, when you feel like you have to do something, you're going to stay right above that line. You don't want to stay on the line, because if you stay on the line, that's going to draw more attention to you and you might get fired. So they stay just above the line. And it makes you feel as though they're okay, well, I can't really fire them. They're doing what I'm asking them to do, but they don't really want to do it. What we want to do is get them to that want-to curve where they're consistently getting better, consistently moving up to that top performer status. And whatever performance means, performance doesn't mean bringing in sales. Performance can mean being super efficient. Performance can mean being a good teammate. Performance can mean anything you want it to mean, but we want them to move to that want-to curve and bridge that gap between the have-to and the want-to. But you can tell those people within the first week of taking the job because they'll ask you the rules and then they'll stay right at those rules. And there's things that indicators right now, in the first week, first month, whatever it is, those people show you that they're have-to or want-to. Okay, we want to be able to move them from have-to to want-to. So a lot of times what happens, though, is when we're dealing with a person, we see their behaviors, okay? And we have to guess at their drives and their needs. And people have drives. Everybody has something that drives them, multiple things that drive them. And these drives create needs. But if you only see the behaviors, you're guessing at the drives and needs. And you're actually guessing through your own lens. You're guessing according to like if I was behaving this way, this is what would motivate me to be better. You're thinking in those terms because that's the way we normally think. But what happens is when you can measure this, which is what we do at Clear Leader Group and with Predictive Index, if you can measure this, you can actually predict their needs and predict what behaviors they're going to have based on those needs. And that's what we're looking to do. That's what we want to be able to do with the drives. That's why we want to be able to measure them instead of just waiting around and hoping we get it right with the human condition. So with that said, we use 4 factors. We call them A, B, C, and D. They say dominance, extroversion, patience, and formality. That doesn't really tell you a whole lot. We like to say that A is how you lead. This is how you control. This is how you direct. This is your leadership style. B is how you communicate or how you best communicate. We want to make sure that we understand some people prefer to think it out and some people prefer to talk it out. But your way of best communicating is shown by the drive of your B drive. Your C, this is your environment that unleashes your full potential. Very important. There's an environment that you work best in, and it's going to unleash your full potential. This C determines that. The C drive determines that particular environment. And then D is how you handle details, risk, all those things. Sorry about that. How you handle details, risk, and structure and rules. This is your D drive. Okay, this is your relationship to those things. These are the 4 factors we talk about. You might think, oh, only 4 drives. There's got to be more than that. Well, there's actually a lot more nuance to it than that, but this is the basics of it. This is we don't want to throw too much at you at once. We're not trying to have you drink through a fire hose here. Okay, this is the beginning. But when you address these 4 things and you address them together and you address them according to the needs of the individual, this is what bridges the gap, okay, between their hands and feet and their head and their heart. You see, you can buy people's hands and feet. You can pay them money and get them to show up every day and do what you ask them to do. But you can't buy their head and heart. You've got to invest in it at another level. You've got to get them wanting to put in longer hours, okay? You've got to get them working more efficiently. They understand that time is money. They understand that going that extra mile is more than just about them. It's about who they want to be as a person, as a contributor to the mission of the company and a group and the team. They're not just working for a check when they're at that discretionary or they're at that want to curve. So this is what we're trying to do, is bridge that gap using behavioral measures, the measures of behavioral drives. So now let's look at what engaged companies look like, okay? And this is a no-brainer. Everyone here, if you're in HR, if you're in leadership, you know that when you're engaged, it's better. But how much better? How much better is that? What does that really mean? Because we love data. Businesses love data because data allows us to make better decisions going forward. So engaged companies, they're going to see a 6% higher net profit margin, and that's a lot for a net profit margin. They're going to see 5 times higher shareholder returns across 5 years. Incredible. And you've got your resources right there. You've got your references, excuse me. Okay. So when people are engaged, you're going to have 37% lower absenteeism, 25% lower turnover in high turnover organizations, and 65% turnover in lower turnover organizations. It's incredible because that costs companies a lot of money when you calculate it. 28% less shrinkage, 48% fewer safety incidences. Okay, 41%. I'll move this up here. I can't see it. 41% fewer patient safety incidences, 41% fewer quality incidents. Okay, higher 10% higher customer metrics, 21% higher productivity, 22% higher profitability. All these things get improved when you improve engagement. Okay, 4 forces of disengagement are job, manager, team, and culture. So when we talk about engagement, we say, hey, this is what disengages people. Job, manager, team, and culture. Let's talk about the job. When you have we want to think about the job fit. When you have a misalignment between somebody's natural tendencies and the key responsibilities of the job, you have a problem. And the problem here is that it doesn't fit there. Like, even if they can do it, the question is, will they do it for an extended period of time? Will they do it without turning over? Is what we're looking at here. So let's just look at Heather. This is Heather. This is Heather's behavioral style. This is her A, which her A is, and we'll get into some explanations how this looks, but this is her A is considered high. Her B is considered low. Her C is considered slightly low, but right down the middle, kind of situational, but it's slightly low. And then her D is high. And this is her job. Now, when we look at her job compared to her, this is the needs of the job. This is what the drives are of the person in this position that's going to lend the best tendencies, lend them towards the right behaviors, okay? And as you can see, there's some differences. Now, with her A, not much of a difference. It's pretty much the same. This is how she leads. This is how she needs to be leading for this position. Her B has to go up significantly. This is a strain. B is directly connected to your energy. Okay, how you communicate affects your energy, affects your fatigue at the end of the day. Okay, so you come into it, or you end the day like tired or fatigued. A lot of times your B can be the indicator. Other indicators too, but that's a big one. C, she's having to go low, meaning she usually likes things to be stable and steady, and they're moving down. They expect it to be more rushed and intense. Really bothers her. Okay, and then her D is going down as well. Now her D doesn't go down as much, but anytime it crosses this midline, it affects you. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's a short distance or not. If If it crosses that midline, it's going to be tough. So if you have to be a little more flexible, a little less rules driven, you're going to have some struggle there. So this job doesn't match Heather very well. I've actually seen this in a case where people don't necessarily know it because they love every other aspect of their job. They don't necessarily know that the job's not a good fit. One of my clients, they had a guy that his behavioral style didn't seem to fit his position. So when I asked him if he loved his job, he said, "Yeah, I love my job." And then we started digging a little bit deeper and found out that he actually liked his job that he did before better, but he didn't want to leave his team hanging dry. He wanted to be there for his team. And then they found out he actually was better at we found out he actually was better at the job he did before, and he liked that better. They ended up getting him back in that type of position. And now he's just as happy as ever. It's just important to recognize these things when you're looking at tendencies. Sometimes we don't notice it because other things we like about the job, and we don't want to tell our boss we don't like our job. We don't want to tell our supervisor we don't like the job. They're not going to tell you that. They want to keep their job. So we've got to see these things from an objective standpoint, and that's what PI helps us do. Now let's look at the manager impact. This is the one that was voted most often, obviously. Okay, this is the misalignment between the manager and the self. Now, when we're looking at management styles, we have to understand that as the A moves up to the right, as it moves higher and higher and higher, the person becomes more authoritative. They want to tell you more. Okay, as their B becomes higher, they want to sell you more. They become more communicative, persuasive. As their C moves up, they want to create more processes, better experience overall, okay, of making sure things are stable and smooth. And as the D moves up, they want to create more structure and more rules. Alan Mulally is a good example. He was the CEO of Ford Motor Company, also was with Boeing before that. And he is the type that has a high A and likes to tell, but he also has a high D. He likes those rules. So we have to recognize that when we have this management style, how it might come off to somebody who is being led by us, especially when they're not like us. So the golden rule generally is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. This is how we've grown up. If you grew up in church at all, you know you've heard this time and time again. Okay, and you might have even heard it if you didn't grow up in church. All right, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But as a leader, this is actually wrong. We don't want to do this, because if we lead people how we want to be led, we're going to lead them the wrong way. We want to treat others the way they want to be treated. We want to lead them the way they need to be led, not the way we would like to be led, not the way we would like to be treated. That's the platinum rule. Make sure that you are paying attention to what their needs are first. That's how you bridge the gap between the manager and the employee. Okay, so employees' needs look like this. You got when their dominance is high, they need to have impact. Okay, they need to feel like they are making a difference, and their efforts are contributing in a significant way. When the B is high, they want feedback. They want to know what you think. They want to know where they can go, what they can do differently, and what they're doing well. If the C is high, they want time. You just give them time. Give them goals and give them time. I've got a high C, and I love checklists. I love having things I can just check off the list and get it done. And if you give me enough time, I'm going to get anything done. I can accomplish anything if given enough time. D, high D, they want the details. Don't leave things to chance. Don't leave things in flux. Let them know what you want. Give them those clear expectations. Okay, that's what we need to focus on. Focus on those highest drives, those employee needs. Employees' needs come first. It is important for the manager to understand their needs and the employees of their employees based on the behavioral drives. So we got to understand those things. Third thing is team dynamics. Being unlike the team. When you're a leader and you're not the same as the team, you can really be a black sheep or you can be a savior. Which one? Which one are you going to be? People who don't understand the differences oftentimes feel frustrated when they're dealing with teams that are different from them. And teams that are different from the leader that don't understand the differences often get frustrated with the leader. But when you understand the differences, okay, and how they can be used to an advantage, they become the type of person who can take the team to the next level. Okay, they're most important member of the team because they're a challenger, because they push the group to think differently. You have to have those different types of thinking if you're going to gain perspective and new ideas. You can't get new ideas without different thinking. It doesn't work that way. It's a reverse of the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, okay, ain't going to happen. Okay, we want to think differently so that we can figure out new ideas. So when we look at the misalignment here, we've got, this is the team, okay, and this is the leader. Now notice the difference. He's going to be more aggressive. That A goes up. It's going to be much more aggressive, and he's going to come off that way. You might make somebody feel bad, but if you're aware of it, it makes you feel less bad because you know it's just his style. He's not meaning anything by it. That B goes up. Okay, he's going to think, or excuse me, the B goes down for the leader. He's going to think before he talks. Okay, so he's going to think about what he's going to say, and he's going to let you know it. Okay, and he's going to make a decision about that, and he might not be as communicative about it. And then that D, okay, is going to go up. He's going to be more data driven, expect more rules. Okay, notice how we didn't address the C, because the C, they kind of have a common ground on. Yeah, it goes up a little bit, but not much. Okay. It doesn't go up much at all between the leader and the team. So it's not necessarily going to be somewhere where they struggle as much to connect with. But these three things they definitely need to be aware of. Okay, and that'll help them fit better together as a team. Last thing we want to talk about in the 4 forces of disengagement is the culture. Okay, now the culture is feeling like what the culture expects of you isn't who you really are. This is when you feel disengaged. You're like, the culture expects me to be somebody who I'm not. This is an important concept to remember, not just in work, but in life. When you feel that way, you feel disconnected. You feel disengaged. It's not just that you are disengaged. You feel disengaged. And that's worse when it comes to a personal standpoint. But in terms of the work that you do, okay, we want to be engaged and feel engaged, both. Okay, and that's what the culture can do for you. So let's look at what PI experiences with their teams. They got the developers and they got the management. Okay, and they have to figure out a way to bridge that gap. This is predictive index. This is their front office. This is the people in their front office. You got their software developers and their management team. So this is their management team. Okay, this is their development team. As you can see, the management team is proactive, impatient, risk tolerant, verbal, less formal. And you got the development team is rules-based, patient, structure, and heads down. They're going to get work done. They're going to be fast doing it. They're going to try to get work done quickly, and they're going to try to do it quietly. Okay? And be patient to get it done, see it through, and they want to have a lot of rules to it. You got to be able to bridge those gaps. It's so tough to work with people if you don't understand the differences. You know, a lot of times people are empathetic just by chance. We need to be empathetic on purpose. We need to understand people on purpose, not just by chance. Okay, the human condition is too complicated and too difficult to do it by chance. And when you leave it to chance, you end up getting frustrated. That's why the number one source of frustration when you're trying to grow your business or scale your business or run a business or run a team, manage a team, is the disconnect from the people. You can't figure out why, because you want to be a great leader. And sometimes we just don't know how to connect with everybody, how to connect with these individuals. Okay? So disengaged employees, this is important. And I've recently created a calculation form that I'm not put out there yet. It's not quite finalized, that shows us a little more strategically for each individual business or company. But overall in the United States, disengaged employees cost companies $90 billion a year, and $11 billion is lost annually due to employee turnover. This is a major problem. Okay. And the reason we leave it alone a lot of times is because we don't really know what to do about it, or we think we can do things about this on our own. We think we can handle it on our own. It's almost like we feel like we can be the person who cracks that code. And you don't have to be that person. Now, if you are that person, great. I've seen plenty of people who are good at cracking that code, but it's tough. It's difficult. And that's a code that needs to be cracked. We got to figure out how to engage people more. And this is what Clear Leader Group, this is how we get results. This is what we do to help people move forward. Okay. To help them get those results. We have a process. We basically change these to the 4 forces of people development. Okay, this is how people grow. This is how people improve at work. And this is when you improve at work, your life improves. Okay, when you feel good about what you're doing, okay, you're less stressed at home. You're able to spend more time with your family, be better engaged with them, better engaged in your community, all those things. Very, very important to see. Okay, when you're engaged at work, it helps you in all of your life. We use talent optimization. Okay, we like to go from business strategy, okay, right here, business strategy to business results. Okay, and we use a 4-part process for that. Design, which is creating a plan for your people to get your people going in the right direction, get them in the right seats, right people in the right seats, and keep them there for as long as possible. We got to make a plan. Then we go on to hire. We want to hire, right, people in the right seats. Okay, inspire. We want to get them wanting to do what they're doing better. That's the have to versus the want to curve. Okay, and then diagnose. There's always going to be problems, guys. These are people, humans, complicated individuals. Okay, a lot of nuance goes on here that we can't see coming. We got to have a way of checking these things, diagnosing them as they hit. Okay, that's our process with talent optimization. We also have to understand that the whole person, this is what I was talking about before, Ryan, the whole person shows up at work. Okay, the head, the heart, and the briefcase. Okay, the heart part is that values and that culture, that intangible aspect. And you can see it amongst companies and their teams and their people. But what we do is, as a company ourselves, what Clear Leader Group does is we take the cognitive and the behavioral side of things, which are stable over time, and we measure those. And we measure those and see where those fit into the company and the individual, how it connects the company and the individual with each other and bridges that gap. Of course, you got your resume that changes over time. This is what we generally look at when it comes to a job. Have they done the job before? Can they do it again? Okay. But these things don't always work out, especially if the values and the drives and cognitive ability don't match. So we got to pay attention to the whole person, because the whole person shows up at work. And when we pay attention to them, we end up getting better people. We end up getting them in the right seats. We end up getting them more honest in their communication, and they work better together. Just makes for a better company, better experience. We have this behavioral assessment that we use. Okay, this behavioral assessment takes 5 to 10 minutes, max 10 minutes. Most people say it takes 6 or 7 minutes. Okay, it's a free choice survey, and it's available in 70 languages. Okay, it assesses the 4 drives. Okay, and basically gives you a framework for understanding the people's workplace behaviors. And it's simple, it's quick, it's painless, and it's an objective tool. It's so important that this thing is objective, because when you coach somebody, when you have an objective tool, people don't get offended. They don't get defensive about an objective tool. Most people don't. I want to say everybody. Most people don't get defensive about an objective tool. But if you come to them and you say you see these things, a lot of times they might get defensive, especially when you're their manager, because they don't want to disappoint you. They don't want to risk their job. And it's a necessary thing we have to deal with, but it's something that our behavioral assessment helps us get past. So this is what we use it for: candidate fit, and then developing people. You can have it for determining whether a person fits the position that you have. We have a job target for that. And you match it to the behavioral assessment, or we can do it for career pathing. Is somebody going to be a good leader? Is somebody going to be a good manager? Are they going to be a better teammate? Do they want to even be in leadership? And then obviously relationships, conflict management, things like that. All these things are important to have in place, and this is what the behavioral assessment is used for. If you wondered if it's valid, completely valid. It's been around for 65 years. Okay, they've used it since World War II. In World War II, they used it to determine who was a better bomber pilot versus a fighter pilot. Bomber pilots had to be steady, stable, accurate, and fighter pilots had to be a little bit more flexible. They had to be kind of all over the place. They had to be able to adjust on the fly. They used that initially to come up with the behavioral assessment that's used in predictive index. And it's developed over the course of the last 65 years, 350 plus validity studies, 111 unique job roles, 25,000 people, 11 industries. So that brings us back to the 4 factors. Okay. And let's engage a little bit here too. When it comes to the 4 factors, dominance, how you lead, versus, if you're a high A and you lead with independence and assertiveness and authoritative style versus a low A, are you collaborative? Maybe you recognize that in yourself. If you're not taking the assessment, you're just guessing though. We always say this, you're just guessing, but you're thinking right now, do I lead like that or am I more collaborative? Okay. Am I communicating? Do I like to talk things out? Do I like to think things out before I talk about them? What do I prefer there? Okay. Do I like to have things steady and stable and consistent, or do I like to have things moving forward quickly, rushed, intense, driven? Do I like to just bounce around different things? Okay. And then with my rules, do I like to have things just so? Do I have to have the rules correct? Do I have to have them in place? Or am I okay with things being flexible? Am I go with the flow? Am I easygoing? Am I going to be able to just kind of wing it and get it done? Everybody has their tendencies. You're probably thinking of that right now, and you put them in the chat, what you think is your lead driver. So fixing the engagement problem is possible when you understand what drives people. Okay. When we talk about these drivers we were just mentioning, we've got to understand that these engagement issues, you're a step closer when you understand this stuff. And you can definitely go and assess and try to figure these things out on your own. But we always say it's like throwing a grenade versus using a sniper rifle. We'd rather have the sniper rifle. We'd rather know we're going to hit the target. And when you hit the target, you can be certain that you're moving in the right direction. That the box you're thinking in is the one that you need to be thinking in at the time. And those boxes change. You say think outside the box. Well, the only time you're going to think outside the box is when you need to change to a different box. Okay. But we always want to think within parameters. And this gives us a great system with proven validity behind it to think through. So just keep that in mind as you're thinking about what you want to do. Right now, though, we want to make sure that you guys have a chance to ask questions. Melissa, I know you've been monitoring the chat, and you can type questions into the chat as well. But is there anything specifically, does anybody want to ask a question right now?
Actually have a question to throw out for the group, and we certainly want any other questions you all might have, but a question for everybody here is, after hearing this, what is something that you're thinking about you're going to do differently today?
You can type it in the chat or you can say it. Maybe something you hadn't done before.
Hey, it's Lonnie.
Lonnie, what's up?
So, Keith, when you showed this graph about you map the leader over the team, I'm sitting here texting Kevin saying, hey, Kevin, do we have this ability in the PI program? And he said, no, but it's coming. Man, that would be huge. I mean, we can graph the leader in with the team, but it doesn't really show that dynamic. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the next step for us, is to say, okay, we got these teams, we've got them learning about how the team dynamics work, but how do we manage that huge dichotomy in some cases between the leader's personality and the team's personality? Do we make a change? Perhaps not a punitive change, but a strategic change within who's leading our teams in some cases. So that, I know I can't do that today, change that today, but certainly I'm going to be on Kevin and on PI to try to get that done.
So we always say this, we want to coach them up, meaning we want to get them up to speed and get them to where they need to be, coach them over. Which means we want to go, if they're going to be better fit for another position, we want to get them in that spot, especially if they're a quality team member. Or we need to coach them out, meaning we need to coach them to somewhere else. Now, that's coaching them. That's not, like you said, the strategic change doesn't have to be punitive. It can be, the change doesn't have to be punitive. It can be strategic. That's what, coaching somebody out is not about firing them. It's not about getting them out of there. It's about making sure things are right for everyone. And I've actually had clients do that before. They kind of refuse. There's a small company out of Chattanooga. They refuse to fire anybody until they found something else for them. unless the person does something that's completely insubordinate and undermines the leadership in the company. But if it's a mutual, like, hey, listen, this isn't working out, let's find you another place. They do that. They go searching for the person another job. And that means a lot to their employees. And they get a lot of buy-in because of that. But sometimes it's just strategic. Sometimes it's just something that needs to be done for the sake of everyone, not just the company, but for the person. So that's a good
Kevin,
point, Lonnie.
Keith, sorry. Well, look, I'm a firm believer in that because I was on the receiving end of that. As a executive over all of our branches for 11 and a half years and being in retail banking for 25, I was burnt out and didn't realize it. And so our president came to me and said, hey, are you happy? And I lied and said, yeah. He said, well, the bank wants you to be really happy. What would you want to do in the bank? And so he gave me a couple ideas. I said, let me think about it over the weekend. Came back with a job description that I wrote out, and he gave it to me. And I have been more fulfilled in this role the past year and a half and have actually been told by him, this has been your best year ever.
That's awesome.
I mean, so coaching over, oh my gosh, it's huge for engagement in the company. I guess he realized some things I was doing that that wasn't healthy. I was blind to it, and I'm no dummy. I've been around the block a long time, just like we all have. But we tend to get those blinders on, and it's not good. And so I am forever in his debt for recognizing that and putting me into a spot or giving me an opportunity to create a position in which I get to touch the lives of all of our employees and spend 100% of my time investing in them. So firm believer in that one.
That's a great story, man. And to me, that's just a testament to the fact that, I mean, sometimes people are good at recognizing that, but you mentioned something, I call this drifting. We're just drifting through things. It's almost like we're in a waking trance. Right. We just, every day is the repeat. It's Groundhog Day over and over and over again. And that's not healthy. Eventually we'll come out of that trance. Eventually we'll snap out of it and be like, what the heck am I doing? We don't want to have to wait around for that. And we definitely don't want our people to have to wait around for that. So great input right there, Lonnie. I appreciate that.
Lonnie, you actually made me think of something, their world, not ours. And that's the other thing that we say at CLG, that, it's their world, not ours, and we're thinking of others. And that was an awesome move on your manager's part to think about you and ask you to do that. It's great leadership. Servant
leadership. Yeah, it's servant leadership. It's taking care of people ahead of yourself. Very, very important. And that's something we're fortunate to have too, Melissa. You think you'll agree with this as well. Kevin's that way. Kevin is a servant leader. And he's got a lot of experience, a lot of things to share, and he just works hard to make sure he's giving everybody everything they need. So I can speak from that, from a personal experience. He's phenomenal there.
Absolutely.
So,
kind and embarrassing, but kind.
No, hey, public recognition, brother. You love it. He'll say no. He's humble too, guys. It's that value system coming in. He's humble.
Melissa, I think your question earlier, something that, something to take away, something we can do differently today. I liked the quote that Kevin put out there earlier, or it wasn't Kevin. I forget who mentioned it. Maybe it was Keith, but the golden rule, right? Treat others as we would like to be treated. I think a lot of times that gets us into trouble, right? I mean, we and I say that in the context of, like the love languages or whatever, right? The way I treat my wife is the way I want to be treated. And that doesn't work, right? It's we got to treat other people the way they want to be treated. And so I'll use it in my personal life, right? So I'm sure she'll be appreciative of all this, but or I'll try to do a better job of doing it in my personal life, right? But I think also in business, I really appreciated that those couple of slides there. It made me sit back and think a little bit.
Well,
that's awesome.
That's great. We appreciate that. You talk about it being in your personal life. This is where it thinking this way infiltrates your personal life. There were things I had done before I came across Predictive Index that when I found out the differences between me and my wife, and they are substantial, which it's a good thing we're different because we really complement each other well. But we had done some things that they make total sense when I see them through the lens of PI. One of which that I had to do, my wife is very driven. She has a low C, very driven. But I perceived it early on in our marriage. We've been married 14 years now. I perceived it as impatience, when in fact it was just a high sense of urgency. It was just a drive. And man, when I reframed it in that positive light, it became a world changer for me. But that's that platinum rule coming out in my own life. But like you said, man, it changes your relationships when you look through the lens of how we can relate better to the people who depend on us.
Absolutely. Oh, go ahead, Brooke.
I was going to say, I really like how you just said the phrase rethink, or you reframed it in a positive light. And I think that's the whole key takeaway for me, both with your presentation today and in general, and trying to figure out my leadership style and my communication style, is to really, celebrate everyone else's leadership styles and communication styles, and think of it as this whole modge podge of, something that can form like a beautiful bouquet instead of one single rose or whatever, And so that's kind of, so I really like that turn of phrase that you used there.
Oh, I love that. First off, I love Mod Podge. That sounds like a word I'm going to be using in the future, but I also love the bouquet analogy there. Excellent. Because one flower by itself can be beautiful, and it can be extravagant and can be exquisite, but a bouquet can be as well. And that's really what leadership is all about, is getting these different leadership styles together. And honestly, leadership styles, even amongst employees who don't have anybody they're leading, they still have to lead themselves. And they have a style that goes with that as well. So good point. Thank you, Brooke. Does anybody else want to throw anything in there? This is good stuff, guys. I really appreciate y'all's participation, and just this is fun for me. This is fun for all of us. Love this here. Were there any questions in the chat, Melissa, that you saw?
There were not, and actually we were not sure how we were going to do on time, guys, but if anyone would like to introduce yourself formally and tell us who you are and who you're with, we welcome that. And thank you guys so much for participating. Does anyone want to jump in and introduce themselves?
Hey guys, this is Lonnie. I live in North Louisiana and have known Kevin for a number of years. We met when I lived in Knoxville back in 2005, 2006. Went to church together. Really developed a great relationship. And when I got into my new role last year, I happened to see him on LinkedIn with this new deal he was working on, and I reached out to him and have been very privileged to have him as a partner with our bank for the past year, almost year and a half. I work for a $6 billion bank in North Louisiana. We have locations in Houston, Dallas, Jackson, and across North Louisiana. Banks are having a really difficult time now because the rate environment is so low. Our margins are being squeezed, and it's great when you hear about people saying, well, no evictions, but on the other side of that are people who have taken out loans to create apartment buildings, and they have, payments to pay back. And so, a lot of banks, including us, are really taking the profits that we're making and putting them, I guess, in a quote unquote savings account, for the future. It's called loan loss reserve. And so we're, banks' profits across the country have been going down because of, concern for the future and how this is going to play out. But I really appreciate being on the call. I look forward to having Kevin have this same conversation with our group. What I've been doing is having a work from home call every month, a fun, I have a contest on there that they use Kazoo, which is sort of like Menti. And then I have speakers, like I'll have our CEO on there. I'll have our CFO, just people coming in 5 to 7 minutes. But I got feedback from people who are working from work saying, hey, what about us? Like, I hadn't really thought about that. And so we're having our first work from work call this next week. And I'm going to have Kevin get on there. And Kevin, the number's up to 112 now. So very excited about it. Glad to be on the call.
Thanks, Lonnie.
And by the way, I miss East Tennessee. North Louisiana, no East Tennessee. Just saying. I mean, down here we have mosquitoes, fire ants, humidity, hurricanes, and state income taxes, and y'all have none of that. So I really miss that. Just saying.
Hey, I coach soccer for my kids' league. I beg to differ on the fire ants. I stepped in one the other day, and I was like, "Whoops!" So got a little eaten up, but maybe not as bad as North Louisiana. But who else we got out there that wants to introduce themselves?
Hey Keith, it's Holly. I'll speak up.
Hey, Holly.
Hey. So I think Keith may have mentioned when I was joining the call that our kids have kind of grown up together in elementary school, and they're in the same class this year, which that looks very different for these kiddos, but I'm grateful that they're able to be in school. But a little bit about me is I work for a cybersecurity consulting firm, started out kind of in an HR generalist role. My company was acquired and mixed with 2 other companies. So that has been challenging. And this information you presented is so interesting because we've dealt with a lot of challenges with culture and managers and all of that. So where I'm at today is I moved into a learning and development role in January of this year. So I love this type of information and kind of being able to take it and apply it in our organization.
Well, thanks for being here, Holly. We appreciate that.
You are welcome.
Yeah. All right, who's next? We're going to get on a roll here.
I'll jump in. So my name is Ryan Weiss. I'm the president of a company called Effective Performance Strategies. So Kevin and I got to know each other, I don't know, it's been probably 6 months ago or so. It was right towards the beginning of COVID, actually. And so I appreciate being on this. So as I mentioned earlier, I spent about 17 years in the chemical industry working at a big multinational, and left about 4 years ago to start a small company. And we've built up a team. We've got and kind of thinking through some of the things that you were talking about, I really appreciated learning about sort of those dimensions and sort of reflecting on myself and also on the couple of employees I've got working for me, that we have different personalities, and sort of making the best use of their abilities and how we engage. I think will be giving me some good perspectives on that. So I appreciate it.
Perfect. Thanks, Ryan. We appreciate it, man. All right, who's next?
I can go next. So my name's Kristen. I work for a company called Accenture, which is a professional services company. And I'm on the program management team there. So I'm kind of looking in the future to get more leadership opportunities. And I also love these types of classes. So
Yeah.
I wanted to join and kind of learn to develop more as a leader before I get those opportunities, so that hopefully I'll be one step ahead of everyone. But I've really enjoyed this class today.
Perfect. And the fact that you're proactive about that, getting this type of education, it just shows me you're going to get there. At some point, you're going to have that opportunity, and you're going to do great. So,
thank you. That's the plan, but we'll see.
Yeah, there you go. No, it'll happen. Believe it. Who's up?
I'll go ahead and go.
All right.
I am Brooke Carlton-Einson, and I'm about a year and a month into my professional career. So I graduated UT last year, and I took over the marketing and business development side of my parents' company. It's a construction company in Maryville, Tennessee. And it was like a weird jigsaw puzzle piece where it just fit in, and it's given me a wonderful opportunity to practice strategy and use digital marketing. And I do photography for the job sites and copywriting and design. But my role has transitioned a lot throughout since the beginning. So now I'm more on the front end side of client relationships. So that's kind of where I'm at, but I have a huge eye for strategy. So this, I saw this opportunity at Blunt Partnership, I believe, posted it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I thought, why not give it a shot? Because other than all the other kind of miscellaneous roles that I've been trying to pinpoint areas in the company that, maybe could use some revisions or some improvements, and then kind of going from there. So I figured this would be a good place to start for our unofficial HR improvement.
Well, good. Well, we're glad to have you, Brooke, and we appreciate that. Yeah, this is when I first saw this too, I felt the same way. I just thought it was great stuff. I love presenting it to people. It's fun. Do we have anybody else? I think we might have is, and if you don't want to, I think Angie. I know we have a few of our team on here as well. But if you're not available, sometimes people are. I've been on these before where they listen to them while there are other people in the background don't necessarily want to contribute. But so before we, this has been great. I really appreciate y'all's attention. I appreciate y'all being here and engaging like you have. It makes it worthwhile for me. That's my favorite part of it. I used to be a high school teacher. I didn't give you this part of my background. I was a teacher and a coach for 14 years. And I played sports before that. Really got out of my comfort zone to be an entrepreneur and go into business for myself. Met Kevin about beginning of this year, and he and I partnered together. And then about a month later, Melissa came on board, and I love our team. Kyle joined us a couple months ago, and we just have a great team. I love being a part of it. So that's all I've got for you guys. I really appreciate your time. Really appreciate you engaging. Always enjoy these things. If you notice, if I'm not connected with you on LinkedIn, I will be connecting with you. I always do that. I love LinkedIn. I get on there quite a bit and just enjoy engaging with people. Rather be on there than other social media places because I just like the positivity that I see on there consistently. So. So thanks for being here. And Melissa, do you want to take us home, or is that all we got?
Yeah, I'll take you guys home. Don't forget to go check out our new website. Like I said, it should be launched hopefully by 5 o'clock today, www.clearleadergroup.com. Also hit us up on LinkedIn, as Keith mentioned. We're also on Twitter and Facebook. So go visit us, check out our pages. We have a lot of other good content that we share on there. And then if you have any questions or need anything, feel free. My email's right there. Email me anytime. Thank you all so much for coming today.
Thanks, everyone.
And I stop share. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thank
See
you.
y'all.